Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, and hopefully everybody has gotten all of their lunch ordered and situated and in front of them if you're ordering lunch. My name is Andrew with Direct One. I'm joined today with Eric Torres with Datto, and Eric is going to be going over Datto and your secret weapon in your war against cybercrime. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric to get things started.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon and taking some time away from your lunch hour to listen to the presentation today about cybersecurity, some of the risks that are out there, and what you can do to mitigate those risks. A couple of logistics before we begin. This presentation will be recorded, and the slide deck is available to you should you wish. We can send that out to you afterwards, just so you have a copy of it and you could go back to it if you have any notes that you're making. Also, in all of your GoToWebinar panels, there is a way to ask questions. So feel free to type a question in there. At the end of this, I have allotted for some time for Q&A, and we can go through those questions at the end. So with that, let's begin. As mentioned, I am Eric Torres, Channel Development Manager at Datto. I have been with the company for almost 5 years now, and my role is to be one of the company's evangelists. I basically travel. I have the privilege, and I'm fortunate enough to travel all over the world, talking about Datto, what we do, how we do it, and more importantly, learning from people and just finding out, okay, what's keeping you up at night when it comes to your network, your data, the risks that are out there, and how can I help, mitigate those risks and help you sleep better at night. Exactly what we're going to go through today. A little about Datto. We are the largest MSP-centric business on the planet. We have global locations all over. We're supported by 1,600 Datto employees, and that number grows every single month. We are definitely a booming business. And the most important number is over 500,000 small to medium-sized businesses are protected by Datto. That is, you guys that are listening to me today, you guys in turn are training companies, much like Direct One, to make sure that your data is safe and that you're secure. And in turn, Direct One is coming to Datto as one of the tools that they use to make sure that their clients' networks are protected. So today we're gonna talk about what backup is and what it's for and the what if scenarios, and that's basically what people think about when it comes to backup. People normally think about the what if scenarios. What if there is a fire in my building? What if I experience a flood? Or what if there's, in certain parts of the country, tornadoes or natural disasters like that? And those are instances that we all have to be prepared for, no doubt about it. But the likelihood of these things happening is slim to none. The stories I hear of networks that are going out because of a hurricane or an earthquake or a fire, those are very few and far between. But every day I hear about networks going down for one reason, and the biggest reasons of network downtime is people. People do terrible things to networks, and I'm one of them. People are the ones that click on the links they shouldn't click on and download software they shouldn't download. I'm in this industry, and when I read an article about some free software that's out there that saves me some time, helps me be more productive, the first thing I'm doing is I'm downloading it and I'm playing with it. And then I'm the one that's calling my IT department at Datto and I'm saying, hey, what's up with the network today? It's running so slow. And they're like, well, Eric, you idiot, look at all the stuff you've downloaded to your workstation. You are what's wrong with the network. It's not the network. Direct One are the ones that they go out and they build these beautiful and pristine networks, and they're fast, run as it should. And then suddenly you release people onto that network, and that's when the bad things start happening. So people are your greatest risk, and that's what we need to prepare for. And I have some stories that I've picked up throughout my travels of people just doing dumb things, and here's them. If anybody recognizes this person, and this is a little bit, I believe this is about 1.5 years ago, but this particular gentleman, and I won't name him, but this particular gentleman was in charge of the alerting system across all of the Hawaiian Islands. And if you remember the story, They had a little while back, they had a false alarm. An alarm went out to every radio wave, every television signal, every cell phone, basically saying there were missiles heading towards the islands and to take cover. And this was a complete mistake. And I'm not pointing this out to say, hey, this guy made a mistake and hit the wrong button, because that is exactly what he did. But I'm pointing out because this was this gentleman's actual LinkedIn profile picture. And if you look at this profile picture, he's proud. He's the one in charge of this network. He's the one in charge of alerting. And as he should be, he's proud of what he does. But what he forgot is that if you zoom in a picture, underneath his password underneath his monitor is his password. And if you look closely, it actually says his password is warning point 2. So these are the things that people do. This guy knows than to have his password taped to his monitor still happening. And this is what we need to protect ourselves from, people making these bad decisions and these bad mistakes. Back in the day, the bad guys were just exactly this. Some guy sitting in his parents' basement that was hacking for the sake of gaining notoriety, stealing some moves, stealing some data, stealing some music, and then putting them on a chat forum and getting the publicity saying, hey, that person that stole all those movies from Rachel, that was me. I did that. And then what happened is the times started changing, and these bad guys are organizing. They're not just that person in their parents' basement sleeping on a futon, hacking for the sake of hacking. These are full-blown organizations with full-blown departments within those organizations. They figure to make money, and that's what makes them extremely dangerous. And when I say that these are organizations, that is exactly it. They even have office fronts and office buildings they go to. They have customer service departments and marketing departments. How can they get their ill-gotten gains faster, or how can they make it easier for their victims to pay them? And that's what we're seeing out there. We know that ransomware is king. And just in 2018 alone, the FBI announced that over $700 million was paid by small to medium-sized businesses in ransom. And the truth is that I think that number is extremely small, because the fact of the matter is a lot of organizations are getting attacked with ransomware, and the ransom ask is anywhere between $500 and $3,000. And for that amount, a lot of companies are paying and not even reporting it to the FBI. Or if they are reporting it to the FBI, it goes nowhere, because this is so prevalent. It's happening so often that even the FBI can't keep up. They're just, okay, another ransomware attack. Are you going to pay it or not? And my advice is to never pay the ransom. Have something in place that says, okay, if something bad happens, let me just go back and get my data. That's exactly what we do at Datto. So in thinking about ransomware, I have some stories that I've picked up that are my favorite ransomware stories that actually show the evolution of how these bad guys are thinking and how they're working. So this first story that I have is a particular strain of ransomware that tests the victim's morality. If anybody has heard of popcorn time, that's a particular strain of ransomware, and it is, as you can see in this title, it is pure evil genius. So what this particular strain of ransomware is, if you happen to get this, you are posed with a question. Do you pay the ransom and get your data back? Or if you're willing to spread that ransomware to two of your so-called friends, if they pay it, you'll get your data back for free. So these bad guys are actually outsourcing their criminal ways, and they're turning the victims into criminals themselves and saying, okay, you're the victim, now the choice. Are you going to pay me, or send this out to friends? If they pay me, I'll give you your data for free. That's how far these guys are thinking outside of the box. But not only that, we were watching this particular strain, and as it made its way across the globe, they found that some of these so-called friends lived on the other side of the world. So then they released an update to this ransomware that actually translated the ransom itself into any language that was out there. That's the customer service aspect of it. That's an update that they launched within the ransom ask. That's what we're seeing out there, and how far outside of the box these bad guys are thinking. Here's another story. If anybody has ever heard of the Big Index, the Big Mac Index is a real number that's tracked, and it is the cost of a Big Mac, your area. in your part of the country. And it's basically the cost of living. How much is the cost of living? And they break it down to the cost of a Big Mac. So this particular strain of ransomware was the first of its kind to come out that was location aware. It knew what part of the country they were in and changed the ransom ask based on where you lived. So for example, let's say that you lived in Appleton, Wisconsin, and the cost of living in Appleton is pretty inexpensive. The cost of a Big Mac's maybe $3, maybe $3.50. I don't want to ask too much of a ransom for somebody that lives in Appleton because I don't want them to say, hey, that's too rich for my blood. I'm not going to pay that. Versus somewhere like, say, Manhattan or San Francisco, where the cost of a Big Mac is $5 or $6, I'm going to ask more money of you in the ransom ask because I don't want to leave money on the table. So this first of its kind that was location aware, and so that caught our interest, and we watched this. And the ransom actually worked. People were paying it, but that's not it. About a week after it was launched, it popped up on the dark web. If you're able to, if you know how to log into the dark web, you can go in and you can actually purchase this strain of ransomware to use yourself. You can become the criminals yourselves if you so wish. So they created the bad code that was ransomware, and it worked so well, they said, let's not just take in the revenue stream of getting the ransom, let's also sell this code. And that's exactly what they're doing. And essentially what they have is now a product that they sell. And what happens when you have a product that you sell? You have to support it. So about a week after it came out on the dark web, we saw them pop up on Jabber, which is an anonymous like chat session that you can now chat with the original people that created the ransomware to ask for help setting up a Bitcoin account. Or if you're a bad guy and you want to target specific industries or places that you want to deploy your ransom to, they can help you with that. They can help you write the code to get past, maybe it's financial institutions, or maybe it's just as simple as changing the color of the code. And you want to change the color to match some kind of branding of organization. You can now chat with them to say, hey, can you change that from a red box to a blue box because I just think it would look better? That's what's happening out there. That's the evolution of what these bad guys are doing. And the fact of the matter is, it's nearly impossible to stay ahead of these bad guys. They are that good, and they are making that much money doing this that gives them all the motivation and all the incentive in the world to deploy and do what they do. And I hear this all the time. I already have a great backup solution, and that's fantastic. I hear it from some of our clients that are out there. Our data is already in the cloud. I already have it offsite somewhere. It's fine. It's safe. I'm not too concerned about it. That is exactly what the city of San Francisco thought. The city of San Francisco got attacked coming up on 2 years ago now, but they got attacked, and it attacked their transit system. And in a moment's notice, the ransomware spread to every kiosk to buy train tickets, bus tickets, you name it. They shut down all of the kiosks to buy these tickets, as you can see right here, and it says out of service. And the city of San Francisco, they have a wonderful IT department. And their CTO said, look, we've got a great staff. We've got our data safe. It's living in a data center. We'll just restore from our backup solution. Well, as a result of the amount of data and simply having to go to the data center and move that data and transfer it to a new data and rebuild the network, as a result of their data simply just living in a data center, their network was down for 2 full days. 2 full days that they could not open up the kiosks to accept the ticket fares of all the travelers. What they did is they didn't shut down the kiosk. They didn't shut down the transit system. They just opened the gates. And they said, hey, every ride is free. And as a result of the timing of this as well, the bad guys knew exactly when to attack the San Francisco Transit Authority. They didn't attack it on just any 2 days. They attacked it on the Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving. The 2 most heavily traveled days for the Transit Authority, this was a very targeted attack. The SFMTA provides 735,000 rides a day. And as I mentioned, they didn't shut down the transit system. They opened the gates and happy Thanksgiving. As a result, because of that, what they normally charge in fare, between $1 and $2.25 a rider. You can see where I'm going with this. Total revenue loss just in ticket sales, roughly $3 million, just in ticket sales to get on the transit system. And that's not including overtime of having to rebuild that network, the forensic investigation to make sure it didn't happen again. And let's face it, it's a government entity. They had all kinds of consultants and high-priced individuals in there trying to figure out how to prevent this from happening again. All told, I bet you that ransomware deployment cost them probably around $5 million in just lost revenue and the act of having to restore from that data just simply living somewhere else. That's the point I'm making. Business continuity is more than just having your data living in a data center. We know that ransomware is running rampant. It's an epidemic that is never going to go away. These guys are getting that good at it. And that's where Datto provides business continuity. This is the difference, and I want to explain to you what Datto solution is real quick, and then show you how this provides business continuity. And I'm a pictures guy, so here's essentially your network. On the left side, you have your physical production machines. Those are your servers and your workstations, or if you have a virtual environment with virtual infrastructure, that is what you're working from day to day. What we have is a virtual or physical continuity device that we install on the network, that Direct One is on the network, and it takes snapshot images of everything that's on that network. It stores the data as little as every 5 minutes. Typically, it's about every hour. We'll take a snapshot of all the data. We'll store it on that actual device, and then we send it to one data, our primary data center on the East Coast, and then secondary data center on the West Coast. We have a data center in Reading, Pennsylvania, and another one in Salt Lake City. So we have your data essentially in 4 separate locations at all times, on your production environment, on our physical or virtual device that lives on that environment, and then at 2 of our data centers. As far as the hardware we have, we can scale to businesses of all sizes. The Alto 3 and the smaller Cirrus 4 units, those can be scaled down to businesses that are 2 employee businesses that have the exact same features, functionality, and business continuity as your larger enterprise companies. And we scale up to 100 terabyte devices and can daisy chain those together. So this solution is truly a one-stop solution for businesses of any single size. We can confidently say that we have the most comprehensive business continuity and disaster recovery lineup in the world. But so Datto also includes ransomware detection, because it's all about time. If you do have the unfortunate incidents of getting ransomware, it's all about time and how fast you can get back. So knowing the exact moment you get ransomware is of the utmost importance. And I want to be very clear. This is not a security solution. This is not keeping ransomware out. This is saying that if something gets past the security solution, you need to know about it. You need to know about it in near real time. That's what Datto does. Every single backup that week, we're actually scanning it to make sure that there is no traces of ransomware. So we're comparing analytics of the 2 most recent backups and saying, hey, there's something different about this last backup that just happened. That's called red flag. And we will notify Direct One of, hey, there's some kind of suspicious activity. It may be ransomware. When you get ransomware, what it does is it encrypts your data files and completely changes all the names of all your files. Our technology is able to look at that and say, hey, this backup compared to 5 minutes ago, all these files started changing. There's something wrong with this. And then we also will alert Direct One, you know what? It looks like ransomware. You should go back to this exact moment in time and restore from this moment before that ransomware hit. That is what ransomware detection is. So to summarize all of this is stop thinking about your traditional backup solution in the sense of the what if scenarios. What if my building catches on fire, or what if there's a natural disaster? Those are unlikely to happen compared to the threats that are out there. Cyber threats, the bad guys that are constantly trying to take your network down and hold it hostage. Start thinking about business continuity. Start thinking about if something bad happened, how fast I can get back to work. How fast can I get back to production? So let's talk about continuity and how that works. It's always easiest for me to explain what is not continuity. Continuity is not a cloud-only copy of your data. That's what the city of San Francisco had. They just had a copy of their data living in a data center, and it took them 2 days to access that data, move that data, and get that running. A local-only copy, that's what if scenario. What if your building catches on fire and your only copy was inside of your building, including a tape backup, which if any of you are still on a tape backup solution, I just want to share with you that magnetic was invented by the Germans in 1928, and people are still using that technology to back up critical business data, and it's so mind-boggling to me considering how far we've come with technology. And lastly, a file-based backup where you're just backing up bits and pieces of your network rather than everything. That is not business continuity. Business continuity is, and I'll warn you because I hate industry buzzwords, it's a hybrid cloud-based backup. That is a fancy marketing way of saying we have multiple copies of your data. We have data living in multiple locations. It's an image-based backup. We're backing up everything. We're backing up your files, your folders, all the partitions. We're backing up your applications. We're backing up your operating systems. We're even backing up your desktop background, shortcuts, all your kids' pictures, all the music you have on there that you listen to. We're backing all of that up so that if you need it, it's exactly how you're used to working. All of your shortcuts are there. Your desktop background, the kids' pictures are there. Everything's there that if you go down, it's exactly how you're used to working. We also deliver secure recovery time objective and recovery point objective. RTO and RPO, again, these are industry buzzwords, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, but basically that's how much does downtime cost me? What is, dollars and cents? How much if I go down today, how much is it going to cost me? We deliver a superior way of combating those costs that associated with downtime. And speaking of downtime, this is the rub. This is what's causing Datto to grow at the paces that we're growing and causing companies like Direct One to turn to Datto and saying, hey, this is the flagship solution for protecting my network. We eliminate downtime through virtualization. Here's what I mean by continuity. You got it. How does it work? So instant virtualization is as simple as this. You're working, and for whatever reason, you can't work. Building catches on fire, you get ransomware, you lose access to your network, or you lose access to your specific device. What we do is we go to our on-site Datto appliance that's in your network, and we spin up an exact same image of that device to just a different moment in time. So if you get somewhere, it's just going back to 5 minutes before I got that ransomware. So the building catches on fire. Let's go back to 10 minutes before that building caught on fire, and that's what I'm going to restore from. That's what I'm going to work from. Through this virtualization, you have multiple benefits. Reduces downtime. We're able to virtualize in as little as 6 seconds. I can bring back a workstation in under 10 seconds. I can spill a coffee on my laptop and bring it right back on a different device in under 10 seconds and continue the presentation, continue going on about my day. It helps with the cost of downtime, your recovery time objective and your recovery point objective, and we can virtualize from either the local appliance or the Datto data center. So let me paint a scenario for you. You're working and you spill a coffee on your laptop. What I do is I go and I spin up an exact same instance of your laptop from the Datto device and give you login details on how to access your laptop and use that and continue about day. Let's say that you lose the entire building. There's an unfortunate disaster and the building caught on fire. What we do is we spin up your entire network in the Datto data center and give you and all of your users access to that and say, here's how you log in. You just use a different device, a different workstation, different laptop, and through a browser, you go in and you have access to your spun up individual workstation, individual servers, however your network is set up, and you can go about your day and work even without the actual physical devices that were lost in the fire or disaster. Total data protection, that is what we do at Datto, and it's continuity for all of your data, your on-prem data, as well as your SaaS data. Many of businesses nowadays are going to specifically Office 365, and they are moving away from an Exchange server, your email server, and going to what is quickly becoming the industry standard, Office 365. Hosted email, hosted SharePoint Online, hosted file servers, and using that. That data is just as vulnerable and just as critical to protect, even though it's already living in the cloud. So this is specifically for Office 365. I also have items for the G Suite, if those of you are on that, but primarily all of us are on Office 365. So there is a need for protection, software as a service. That's what Office 365 is. So there is a need to protect that data, and I have some interesting stats on why that data it needs to be protected, much like your on-prem data, because we see that as being no different. It's business data. It's vulnerable. It needs to be protected, and you need it to survive. So some of the stats that I have specific to the SaaS data, 1 in 3 companies are losing SaaS data. They are using SaaS data, lose data, meaning, okay, that maybe they accidentally delete it. Maybe there's a malicious delete. Something is happening that's causing companies to lose that data, so much so that 3 companies have experienced data loss within Office 365. 47% of that data loss is caused by end-user deletions. That is far and away the biggest thing that happens on both on-prem and SaaS data. It's somebody accidentally deleting something. It happens all the time. We accidentally delete an email. We accidentally delete a file or replace a file. That is very common, especially within your SaaS and your hosted data. And then lastly, 20% of data loss is caused by malicious acts. That could be somebody that's maliciously going in and wiping out data, or, and it's human nature. Let's say you have an employee that catches wind they're about to let go, or they can feel it, they can sense it. What's the first thing that employee does? They go through all their email. They start deleting emails that they don't want people reading. They start deleting calendar appointments. They want to cover their tracks. And that is far and away something that we need to be protective of, and making sure that we have a second copy of that data. On that, SaaS data is still vulnerable to ransomware. Just because it's living on Microsoft servers doesn't mean that it's immune to the bad guys. What we're seeing out there is this new form of ransomware called Ransom Cloud. If anybody has heard of this, Ransom Cloud is exactly what you think it is. It's basically ransomware that is deployed on Microsoft servers. It's attacking Office 365. I saw a gentleman by the name of Kevin Mitnick. He is a hacker. He was one of the most widely well-known ones in the 90s. He broke into a lot of companies and stole a lot of data, and he was a teenager at the time, and the government wanted to make an example out of him, and they put him on the FBI's most wanted list, and they actually caught him. And it took a while, it took a few months, but they caught him, and he actually went to prison for a little while. Went to prison for 5 years, and as soon as he got out, he went straight to the government. He said, I will tell you exactly how I was doing it and how to protect businesses from people like me. And so this is Kevin Mitnick, and now he is the CEO of a company called KnowBefore, which is actually preventative measures and training and more end-user training on what to be out for if something bad happens. But I got to sit down with Kevin. He was actually one of our keynote speakers at DattoCon this year. And I sat down with him and I asked him, I said, so what's this Ransom Cloud thing all about? How does it work? And he actually showed me and did an example, and we got to watch him live hacking an Office 365 account. So what he does is, and he actually took screenshots for me and have them here for you. So what he does is he sends out an email to an Office 365 account, phishing email, looks just like this. Has the Microsoft logo, says Anti-Spam Pro, comes from Anti-Spam Pro mailbox, and it's, look, we want to improve the spam that you're seeing in Office 365. Do you want to run this update? If you want to run it, click accept. This is the next pop-up that comes up. Looks legit. Which one of us end users would even think twice about clicking on this? Yeah, I don't want spam. Yeah, I'm going to accept this. As soon as you click accept, it encrypts everybody's mailbox on the entire domain. And this is an actual encryption of the mailbox. You cannot read any of the text within the mailbox, all you can see is that it's indeed, you can read the subject line. Yeah, that's somebody I had communication with. I know that person. We were emailing this morning. That is a real email. And everybody's mailbox is the ransom ask. All right, you want your data back? Here's how you pay me. Just like that, within minutes, literally within 3 minutes, Kevin Mitnick was able to break into an Office 365 account and deploy ransomware on Microsoft Office 365 servers. So much so that we actually brought him in and recorded him. This is Kevin Mitnick here. We recorded him doing this demonstration as to show you. If anybody wants this video, we can freely send it out. But he shows you exactly how he does it, how quickly and easily he's able to deploy ransomware within Office 365. If anybody wants this video, let me know and I can share it with you afterwards. So Datto, in the theme of protecting all business data, no matter where it lives, we offer protection as well. So we do have the ability to back up Office 365 data and just have that at a different location so that if you do experience these bad guys, these cyber criminals do lock your data down, you have a means to go back and get that data. So let's go back. I mentioned the other industry buzzwords, RTO and RPO, recovery time objective and recovery point objective. Basically, that's how much does downtime cost me? And the way that, I'm a picture guy, so I went to my marketing department. I said, I need to know, I'd be able to explain what RTO and RPO is. So how do I do this? And here's what they sent me. Here's your disaster right there in the middle of the screen. Something bad happens. Fire, flood, tornado, ransomware. Your RPO is going backwards in time. Recovery point objective. Basically, your lost data. What am I restoring to? How far back in time am I going to get my data? Are you restoring from this morning? Are you restoring from yesterday? Is it a weekly restore? Are we going back to last week? Are you willing to lose a week's worth of data, you're saying? So think of it as time and lost data. I'm restoring to this moment in time. On the other side of that, you've got your recovery time objective, your downtime. How long can I be without my data? How long can my network be down? Can I be down for an hour? Hours. A day? More than a day? If I lost access to my network for, say, 3 days, what would that mean for my business? How would things come to a screeching halt, and would my business survive in the event of being down? So in thinking of these two principles, we've got a recovery time calculator. And it's a real simple calculator. It's actually 8 questions. In less than 5 minutes, you can help quantify what an estimate of what downtime costs you. And I'll run through this exercise real quick with you. Everybody can have this calculator purchased, nothing like that. I encourage you to, so you can start wrapping your head around, okay, what does downtime cost my company? You set your objectives in step 1. This is your RTO and RPO. How many hours can your business go without accessing its critical systems? And how many hours of production time am I willing to lose? Again, that's going backwards in time. What am I restoring from? And forward in time, saying, how long can I be without that data? And the second section is about your network itself. Data's on your network. How are you currently backing up these systems? How long between your backups? Are you backing up to a local copy or a cloud copy? I will warn you that if you select cloud only, much like San Francisco, this calculator calculates the amount of data and the transfer speed. There's a max transfer speed of data, and it calculates how much time that data is going to take to transfer. And then you think about your recovery process. If you go down tomorrow, what does your recovery process look like? Who are you calling, and how fast can they get out there? Because you have to account for that time when you're thinking about this. Are you in a rural area? Will it take you maybe somebody an hour or two before they even get on site to see what's happening in the first place? And then step 3 is about the company, about the business itself. How many employees are affected? What's the average hourly wage of those employees? From the highest paid down to the lowest paid, what does that shake out to roughly? $30, $40 an hour, maybe 20? What's the revenue generated per hour by these employees? That is something that, say you're in some sort of service industry, maybe you're a CPA or a lawyer or an engineer, where You know by hour what people are supposed to be billing out and what type of revenue your employees are generated per hour. And then lastly, what's the average hourly overhead cost? A lot of people don't know that, and the real easy way to estimate that, it's roughly half of the average hourly wage. If your hourly wage is $30 roughly per hour per employee, the cost of the building, the rent, the benefits, the lights, and insurance, it's roughly half of that, so $15 an hour. And then you hit calculate, and it estimates, it lets you know based on the information you provided, based on the thresholds you put in step one, what downtime costs you. And this is a real world scenario. This is a tiny network, less than a terabyte of data, 400 gigs of data, 20 employees affected at this network, making roughly $30 an hour. In this case of being down for 2 hours, it's roughly $4,000, $2,000 an hour every single time they have access to their network. That's taking in all the lost productivity, transfer speeds, getting things back online, all of that. So in looking at a network this size and a terabyte of data, we're looking at roughly a cell phone plan a month to give them everything I explained with our business continuity solution. A cell phone plan a month to give them that instant virtualization to say, yeah, I go down, let me just read the hands of time and act like I didn't go down. That's what business continuity is, and this is an exercise I encourage all of you to participate in and just say, okay, well, how much does downtime cost my business? Total data protection, that is what we do at Datto. So our Direct One and Datto helping you today. I mentioned the RTO calculator. This is a simple exercise. Again, less than 5 minutes. You can play around with this and then review the results and say, okay, this is roughly what it costs me every time I go down. And then most importantly, a need assessment. You need to talk to the experts at Direct One. They're the ones that can help walk through and find the risks that you have on the network, the open holes and the gaps, and say, look, here's the solution that is custom tailored to your needs. And for both of these items, for a needs assessment appointment, introductory appointment to Direct One, and for access to the recovery time calculator, again, 100% free, nothing to purchase, nothing like that, no commitment. Just send a message to Andrew Lawhern, 971-202-4895, or shoot him a quick email, alawhern@directone.net. And I'm sure for those that are on this call, he's probably going to be reaching out to you afterwards and just sending a follow-up email and seeing if you found any value in today and if there's any questions you may have. But for those of you that are looking at running through this exercise and seeing how Datto can come in and be your means of providing business continuity through one, shoot him a quick email and we're happy to help. And with that, I just want to thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. My email address is super easy, et@datto.com. If anybody has any questions, wants any more info, wants me to put you in touch with other people that are using our solution, I'm more than happy to, as is Andrew at Direct One. So with that, I just want to thank you again. Thanks for joining us, spending your lunch hour. And now we've got plenty of time here for Q&A. If anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, I do see several coming in, but feel free. It's on in the questions feature within the GoToWebinar app. So with that, I guess I'll just go right through some of these questions. First question, you mentioned where your 2 data centers are, but could you repeat that? Yes, we call them bi-coastal data centers, but they're not even on the coast, really. They're quite a ways inland. Reading, Pennsylvania is our primary data center. That is where all of your data resides. We actually built our own data center. It's the one only for the channel, only for those that are protected by companies like One. That is our primary data center in Reading, Pennsylvania. And then everything at that data center gets replicated to a secondary data center in Salt Lake City, so that, let's say, a natural disaster does hit the East Coast, we've got your data living elsewhere. if a natural disaster hits both, or a disaster hits both coasts and both of our data centers are wiped out, I think it's something more astounding than simply lost data. That I imagine that would mean we're probably at war or under attack somehow, that both of these data centers would go down. Next question. How do we ensure that the backup doesn't get ransomware? Excellent question. Through the technology, and without getting too technical, through the technology, what is this? It's different than your typical backup. So your typical backup solution is basically this. You take your base backup of your data, and then every change you make all the day is added on that. Every incremental change and it's basically links in a chain, and that's what's saved in your traditional backup solutions. So your base image, and then every change is another link in the chain, and each link is dependent on the one behind it and in front of it. That's what builds your data. At Datto, we have eliminated the chain entirely. There is no backup chain. They are completely independent of each other. So let's say you have a corrupt backup, something just awful, something bad happened in the backup process itself. It doesn't affect the moment in time before that or the time after that. And with that, we are able to spin up any one of those specific moments in time. We can go back to 12 o'clock on Tuesday. We can go back to 11 o'clock on Monday. We can go back to 2 in the afternoon on Saturday and spin up any of those moments in time. So because these links aren't actual links together at all, that's what prevents the ransomware from spreading in the first place. We can stay we know that ransomware is there. We just simply go back to the moment in time behind that. Next question, from a training standpoint, how can I protect my staff from clicking on these links? That's exactly it. It does come down to training, and there are a number of options that are out there, and Direct One may be even able to offer some sort of training or some sort of solution, but basically it's just getting the word out, and it's letting your teams know, hey, if it looks too good to be true, it's probably ransomware, and it's probably something malicious. What I also recommend people do is just hover over a link, because that link you can then see where that's directing you to, or even an email address. You can see, I get emails all the time telling me to update my Netflix preferences or options, but when you hover over that actual email link or the email itself, it's not going to Netflix at all. So I would say just be diligently aware and don't click on things that look too good to be true. Another question that comes in, can you restore a simple file if somebody deletes it, or do you have to restore the entire image? Excellent question. No, that is the number one thing that we do at Datto, and the number one thing our partners, Direct One, do when it comes to restoring data. Yes, we can restore a simple file. It doesn't have to go back to a specific moment in time. With our technology, we're able to mount a moment in time and then drill down within that image and restore and drag and drop a file. We do that. It takes a matter of minutes. Still questions coming in. Okay, awesome. What about support? If I am working late after Direct One is out of the office, can I get help at any hours and during certain times? Yeah, Datto specifically, we are 24/7, 365. Holidays, you name it, we never take a day off. We have it fully staffed on the Datto end, because ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, this is of the essence. If you need something done, it is an emergency when it comes to your data. That means something's gone, something's lost, and we need to restore that immediately. And that's what we put ourselves in. Plus, that is a global organization, and we have staff globally all over that are working 24/7, 365. That is of the utmost importance. And also from a technical standpoint, which I won't get too far into, but we do offer the most restoration options and are the fastest at what we do, because that's what we're shooting for. That's the goal. How do we minimize downtime across the board for everybody that's protected by Datto. So it is just a matter of being a phone call, and Datto is here for you. It is worth noting, though, that Datto does not sell direct, and there is a specific reason for that. Because Direct One are the experts. They're the experts at designing, building, maintaining these beautiful networks that they build. Datto is simply a tool that they use on one small aspect of it. So Datto only sells through our trusted partners like Direct One. So if you are interested in a Datto solution, you can reach out to me directly, but I am going to get the fine folks at Direct One involved that can help and install and maintain and monitor and make sure that your data is safe and secure. Oh, here's another good question coming in. Bandwidth. So there is recommended bandwidth. We are sending data offsite, and we want the ability to virtualize should you need to. So there are specific bandwidth requirements that are based on the amount of changes to your data that takes place. However, also built into the technology is bandwidth throttling. So what we can do is only dedicate a certain amount of your internet connection to the Datto solution per hour. You can say during business hours, let's just use this small amount, and they restrict the amount of data, that the speed at which the data is getting off site. And then after hours, open up the floodgates and say, okay, let's get the rest of this data off site. So there is bandwidth throttling that is implemented, that is available, so that you and your users will not see any speed issues whatsoever once you do have a Datto solution in place. And then the age-old question, cost. What does this cost? There are a number of factors that go into cost. And one of the things that we do at Datto is we're not in the business of nickel and diming you and having all these different options. If your network grows, we need to charge you more, and all these licensing, convoluted licensing issues. We try to make this as simple as possible. So what we have is this: there is an investment on the hardware side, which Direct One sets. They have their model and their plans for how they do that, and Direct One can answer any pricing questions. However, what there's an investment of some sort for the device, and then there's an investment for the service itself. So it is a monthly investment. However, Direct One invoice that could be a quarterly investment for them. I'm not sure of their exact pricing model, but pricing in a nutshell, it ranges based on the amount of data you have, and it's spec'd out per device. So as I mentioned earlier, a smaller network, less than a terabyte of data, you're looking at a cell phone plan a month, maybe a little bit more. For those of you that have, 1, 2, 3, 5 terabytes of data, that's where we start talking into a couple $100 per month. So when you break it down, it's roughly, a few bucks a day to make sure that your data is safe, and that if anything bad happens, that you can go back and restore that. Essentially, it's an insurance investment. You pay business insurance. This is insurance on your critical business data. Not to mention that also what we have seen is a lot of our partner clients are using the Datto solution to actually get a discount on their business insurance, and proving to their insurance company and saying, look, I have got a complete business solution on my network, on my data. Some insurance companies offer discounts, which helps offset any investment that you have. And then lastly, I just want to say my best advice is getting an expert in there to just look at what you've got and maintain it. And that is exactly what Direct One does. They have the means of going in, assessing the situation, seeing where the vulnerabilities are, and then ultimately providing their services to say, look, we're going to manage this network. We're going to make sure that it's running at peak performance. We're going to make sure you don't have to worry about it. That's what the fine folks at Direct One do. And that is all the questions I have, unless anybody has any last-minute questions for us. Nothing else coming in. Okay, cool. Well, as you see up there, my email address is et@datto. And lastly, I should have held this one up there for quite a bit longer. Contact Andrew. He set you straight. He can set up a time to have somebody come out and either meet with you in person or do something over the phone and just talk to you about how Direct One can make sure that your network something you never have to worry about. Send them an email, shoot them a call. And with that, just want to thank you all for your time. We will follow up after this. If anybody wants the RTO calculator, copy of the slide deck, if we're even recording this presentation as well, if you want to go back and review the recording of it, we can send that to you. So thank you all for your time. Thank you, Andrew, for having me. And take care and enjoy the rest of your lunch hour.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.